Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and finally we are at the Grandmaster videos for exploration. So today is going to be Masochism, Overreach Fury and Power Drain. So for Masochism, every 7 seconds that the next debuff is triggered on the champion, the defender, that is immediately removed and they regain 5% of their health. And with the Fury is if an attacker has 2 or more Furies, the defender slowly accumulates power over time, so don't use champions that have a lot of Furies on them. And Power Drain is if you get tagged by a special attack from the defender, your power will be drained by 100%. Now if you look at the defenders, there are quite some annoying ones, especially Punisher 2099 and Dormammu and also Mysterio. Now a lot of these are going to be metal champions, so Magneto will work really well, but there's also a catch to that. Apart from that, some good Masochism counters are going to be Omega Red, Storm Pyramid X, Apocalypse, also Archangel, and Proxima Midnight is also good. You can also bring in Corvus Glaive with Proxima Midnight. That is also a good counter for this part because you'll get a lot of charges. Apart from that, you can also bring in Petrified debuff champions, and you can also use the regen from the Masochism to your advantage to kill them off. If not, if you want to play much more safer without those regenerate 5%, you can also use taunt champions. As always, some specific champions that work here are going to be your Quake, Gilly 2099, Warlock and Aegon are also some good options. And the boss is going to be the Grandmaster, and the node will be inflation, so the attack rating from each token is increased by 50%, but the more tokens you have, Grandmaster attack damage also increased by 30%. Mini boss is going to be a Warlock with same nodes, Masochism, Overreach Fury and Power Drain, and there's going to be aggressive armor and spread infection. More on that later in the video. Make sure to check the timestamps, and the masteries I would highly suggest you to have Despair. If not, we can still play around it. So let's jump into the part guys, but before we do, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on those post notifications. All of that really helps me out a lot. Now the first fight is going to be a fairly easy Psylocke. Her specials can be very easily evaded. Now you can use different champions here. You can use champions that are direct counter to Masochism. When I say direct counter to Masochism is when they stun the opponent or when they parry them, they do not activate Masochism because of their ability. So Apocalypse is one of them. Also another one is going to be your Omega Red. Now when he has every death spore he has on the opponent, he will reduce the purification of by 10%, so that will also help. You can use the parries. Same way you can use heal blockers as well, so Archangel and Warlock are also good options. If not, you can use taunt options as well, so you can use somebody like She-Hulk or Spider-Man, Stark Enhanced, and you can keep taunting out the specials and you will never have to parry the opponent to kill her. If not, you can use it to your advantage Masochism, and you can use champions like Void or any champion with Petrify and stack them up. And if you bring in champions with a lot of debuffs like Mr. Fantastic and have Despair Mastery Max 3x3, you can use that to your advantage, and you can reverse the heal from the Masochism. So that is another way to counter it. So you have 3 different ways to deal with this Masochism node. The other 2 you really don't need to worry about. You will not get tagged by the specials, so you don't need to worry about the Power Drain. Now the next defender is going to be a Dr. Octopus, who's also not really difficult. Just keep him to an SP1. You can also evade his SP2, but that becomes a little difficult, so SP1 is the best way to go. Easy way is to again bring in champions that have easy access to taunts or can avoid being triggering Masochism. Now also he's a metal champion. You can also bring in a Magneto here, but there's a trick to Magneto that we will discuss in the upcoming fights when I will use Magneto. But again, it's not difficult. You can bring in the taunt champion as well, like for example She-Hulk and Spider-Man Stark Enhanced. Give him a special bar of power and taunt it out, and then you can go back in and hit him to avoid that region. If not, champions with Petrify and Void would also work here. You can keep getting those debuffs on him, and if you have Despair Mastery, that will reverse the heal, and you can also kill them off in that way. Now the next defender is going to be Mysterio, and he's a very annoying fight, so I have my Magneto here. Now again, you don't have to use Magneto, you can use other champions as well. A lot of armor breakers will work here as well. If you bring in the Captain America Infinity War and you combine him with a tech champion and a cosmic champion, he works really well here also. So the tech synergy will give Petrify on Mysterio to stop his regions, and cosmic synergy will give armor breaks so the poisons are not transferred to you. So keeping that in mind, that is a good option here. You can always use somebody like She-Hulk as well and keep baiting out those specials, so that works also. If not, Void is also a good option. You just need to be baiting his specials out so you're not poisoned, and you can deal with that as well. Omega Red is also a good option. You don't need to worry about the poisons, and that spore will kill him off. Same goes with Apocalypse, because he's a direct Masochism counter, so he will work great on this part. So you can take your pick, but again, if you're gonna bring in champions that have a lot of debuffs like Void, Mr. Fantastic, make sure you have Despair Mastery, that will help. If not, direct Masochism counters also work like Apocalypse and Omega Red. And if not, then you can have champions like Magneto and Captain America and Infinity War, they can also get the job done. Now one thing you will notice that my team is going to be Apocalypse, Magneto, She-Hulk and Professor X. Now Professor X, why he's there, he's for the Grandmaster fight for phase 3. We will discuss in detail more about that. Try to bring in one champion that is immune to reverse control, so you can be able to get through this part without revives or with the least amount of units. So we'll discuss more on that while we are using Professor X later in the video. Now the next defender is going to be a Nebula, and now she's a robot champion and also a metal champion, so you can bring, I am using Magneto again. You can also bring in Medusa here, you can also bring in Nebula, you can also bring in Squirrel Girl. All those champions that are good against robots will work here, and together with the Despair Mastery, those heals from the Masochism will be reduced, because you are going to apply debuffs, and that will reduce the heals per debuff. So again, Warlock is also a good option here, because when you have that virus on the opponent, he's not gonna regenerate. Same goes with Void, you can have those debuffs and the heals will be reversed. If not, taunt champions work really well. I've actually run this whole path with the She-Hulk and she works really well, but for the video, the whole thing is that you try to have all of your 5 champions up until you get to the Grandmaster, and then you can use all of those 5 to bring the Grandmaster down. So we are trying to save the number of units, so we will try to use the champions that are most efficient with us in our roster. Now one thing for Magneto, before you throw an SP3, make sure that you parry and you trigger Masochism before you throw SP3. Otherwise, when you throw SP3 without triggering Masochism, the armor breaks, all of them will not apply, and the damage for SP3 will be less. So it's very important. It can be a bit annoying to trigger that, because with Magnetize you're reducing ability accuracy by 85%. So if you try 1 or 2 times, it might not trigger, but keep trying and keep those metal charges up on you, with those progress charges up on you, and once it is triggered, then you can use your SP3. So on the same token, next one is going to be a Green Goblin. Now Green Goblin usually is a very annoying defender for me. I find his SP2 very annoying to evade, and I get tagged by it a lot. So I try to bring in champions that can control his power. So I'm talking about, for example, somebody by Magic. I love use Magic against him, because I can just take him to a corner and power lock him with an SP2. I know there is Masochism, but you can work around it. You can use a parry first before you use a power lock, so that can work, and you can take him to a corner. If not, Archangel is also a really good option, and remember, you still have Horseman ability on your APOC, so if you're going to use that as well, then Archangel will really rip through him really fast. I am again going to use a Magneto, so I can just build up to my SP3. So for example, right here SP2 is there. I'm very bad at evading it. I'm trying to evade, and I barely get to evade it. So I'm just keeping my prowess up. Now I'm gonna bait his SP2, and then I'm gonna wait to trigger his Masochism before I throw my SP3. That is very important for the full damage. Another great option for this fight and the upcoming fights is going to be a Dr. Voodoo with even combo. So with what Dr. Voodoo you can do is you can build up to an SP2 with even combo, trigger Masochism and just throw your SP2. That will give you powered burn charges, and you can use them to keep the defenders in the corner and just corner intercept whole day. Now there is also one way more to do this fight, and if they get furies on themselves, you can always use an SP1 and put some poisons on the opponent and purify those furies also. So Dr. Voodoo is a very unconventional kind of option, but he works very well on this path too. And then the final metal defender before the mini boss is going to be a Punisher 2099. Now with Punisher 2099, his specials do a lot of block damage and they are not really easy to evade, so he can be very annoying with his constant power and his quick specials. Now again, there are three ways to deal with him. One is going to Magneto because of the metal element. If not, there is also champions like Archangel. You can use them as well with the heal block. You can also use Warlock here. Void is also a good option. You can use that Masochism to your advantage and try to reverse that. Another options that I really like is going to be a champion like Dr. Voodoo or Magic. You can just take Punisher 29 to a corner and do the corner intercepts and keep him power drain. No specials means no block damage, and that will make the fight make you take less damage than you have to. Remember, it's all about getting those 5 champions up and healthy, at least to 50% health at the Grandmaster, so you can spend all your resources and your champions on the Grandmaster. So when you choose a team, make sure to have that in mind, that you bring in champions that can sustain the path and go up to the Grandmaster easily. And always if you have it, bring one champion that is immune to reverse controls. For me, it's going to be Professor X. For you, it can be Mr. Sinister as well. It can be Mysterio with Emma Frost or Emma Frost with Mysterio. More on that concept later during the Grandmaster Phase 3, so stay tuned to the end of the video, guys. Next defender is going to be a Scarlet Witch. Now I would highly suggest you to bring in a poison immune champions, because whenever you use a critical hit against Scarlet Witch, because of a sig ability, you are given different type of debuffs. One of them is going to be a poison, and there's also going to be a heal block. So avoid using suicide masteries unless you're using champions that are immune to the suicide damage. If not, then a poison champion will be good. Poison immune champion will work great here. For me, it's going to be a She-Hulk. Now this is not one of the most cleanest fights I've done, but I've also brought her down with only with 100% HP on myself as well. But this is how you fight with She-Hulk. You just take the opponent to a corner and then intercept and give their specials, and once they have the special with your furies, that will taunt out the special attack from the defenders, and that will give you an opening to go back in. If not, you can also use an SP2 like that, and then Petrify will also help you reverse the heals from Masochism. So it's your choice. You can spam special ones or you can spam SP2. I like to do SP1s because that gives me more openings and I can go in quicker. So yeah, those are some good options. You can always use a Human Torch here. You can also use Archangel. Apocalypse is also a good option. Magic also works. You can take her to a corner, but again, I think She-Hulk or champions like Human Torch and Archangel would be the better options, because they can play around the poison, or they are able to kill off her much faster, and you don't have to worry about all the debuffs. If you are running willpower this fight, it will help you in this fight, because of all the debuffs she can apply on you, that willpower will come in really handy and give you heals off of those non-damaging debuffs. Now the next fight before the mini boss is going to be a Dormammu. I'm just going to heal up She-Hulk a little bit and I'm gonna go in. Now with Dormammu, you have to be really careful that you don't dex, because his sig ability gives you degen whenever a buff expires on you, and that can be really annoying, especially from a sig 200 Dormammu on defense. Now I'm going to use a She-Hulk, and that I'm using my re-parry technique so I can trigger his Masochism and stun him. And then because he's an XL champion, so it will be easier for me to sustain my Furies. And all I'm trying to do is to run up to make 5 Furies, and once I have 5 Furies, then it's easier for him to bait out SP1s. Now the way you deal with SP1 is you let him throw his first 2 instances of the SP1 and you dex away from the third one, but you do it quicker so you do not have the dex on you. So right there I'm blocking and then back. So that's how it works. Make sure that you have a good handle on that, and you can easily solo him with champions like She-Hulk. Human Torch with pre-fight ability would also work. Just block the SP1s, that will give him more smolder. You can also bring in magic. One of my all-time favorite counters to Dormammu is magic. If you see my old videos from Act 5, I always bring in magic for Dormammu. If not, you can always quake this fight. You can also bring in void, but you just need to be careful about those degens from his sig ability. And that's about it, guys. We will be down in no time, and we can move on to the mini boss fight that is going to be a Warlock. Now Warlock is going to be the mini boss. He will have 2 extra nodes on him. One is going to be spreading infection, so when he applies one infection on you, he can apply another one straight away, and there's going to be aggressive armor. Now there are quite a few different options you can use here. I would suggest you to use champions that are immune or that are resistant to shock, so when he throws an SP1 you don't get shocked to death. So champions like Magneto, champions like Doom will be really good here. You can also use Captain America Infinity War with tech and also a skill synergy. Your quick will also work. Angela would be a really good counter because first she will even if he throws an SP1, that will not apply on Angela because of her sig ability resistance. Also Angela can armor break easily Warlock, so you don't have to worry about the armors. And thirdly, she has a lot of buffs on him, so whenever there will be a transmute virus applied on her, that will be removed very quick. Same token, you can use a Hyperion here as well. You can use the Cosmic Ghost Rider as well. So there's quite a few different options you can use for this fight. You just have to be careful about the Masochism node and everything works out. For me, I am using a Magneto. I'm having 40 power charges on me, and I'm trying to trigger now his Masochism before I throw my SP3, and making sure that he does not have much armor from the armored assault. Alternatively, what you can do with Magneto, you can throw an SP2 and have that armor break, and you can just keep refreshing it by throwing your heavy, so you can kill him off like that as well. So I hope this makes it much clearer, and before we jump into Grandmaster fight, you can deal with the Warlock. Warlock animations are very quick, so sometimes he's annoying to deal with, but just make sure you have the right champion to deal with him and you can go through it. Now if you don't have Magneto, you can bring in a good cosmic champions. Even Cosmic Ghost Rider can work, Hyperion can work. You can also use Corvus Glaive with Proxima Midnight. They are also good options because there's a lot of tech champions on this path. So take your pick, guys, and I'll see you at the Grandmaster fight. Now before we jump on to the Grandmaster fight, I just use my Horseman ability and on Sentinel, and I have made my Colossus as a Horseman. Now the first phase for Grandmaster is going to be an opening Gambit, and the rules are going to be inflation. So the attack that I get as an attacker with competence increased by 50%, but also every competence I have that will increase the Grandmaster's damage by 30% as well. Now for the first phase, I have to do intercepts and build up to 15 or 20 intercepts, and then I will get 3 from the SP1, and that will give me enough competence to bring his first phase down easily. Now if you haven't done the fight before and you need a quick rundown, so whenever you use a specific type of attack against the GM, he's going to ban that. So you notice right now there is a red sword just underneath GM, so that he has banned up my light attacks. The other two he bans are going to be dexterity and parry. So whenever I will parry him, he will ban that. You will see a shield icon underneath, and also you will see a dexterity when I dex him. Now eventually you have to use all three of them, so he can parry all the three banned actions, and that gives him a special one. And then he throws a special one, and after the special one, you go through the puzzle of it, you get him to a wounded state, and then for 7 seconds you can really lay into him, and your damage increased by 150%. Right there, he just threw an SP1. Now you will see three icons, that was dex, block and attack. Once after that, he's wounded now. Now I'm getting a lot of damage, 122 criticals, and I'm gonna bring him down to 80% and jump on to phase 2. Now once on phase 2, this is I think the easiest phase and the longest one for the Grandmaster. There's going to be a small preparation phase where he will be infuriated, and after that GM will randomly give you 5 different challenges. The challenges are mentioned on your left. It's going to be a whiff and attack, so you have to just throw a hit in thin air just like that, and there's going to be land a critical hit, perform an intercept, gain a buff and inflict damage effect. So make sure to bring in champion that can do all of that. Whiff and attack you can do with any champion, you can land a critical hit with any champion unless you bring a guillotine 2099 or another champion that does not crit. Also make sure you don't bring such a champion for the boss fight. You can perform an intercept with any champion, gain a buff. You can just use dexterity. The main one you need to worry about is inflict the damage attack, so you need a champion that can inflict the damage attack easily. Now with Colossus, there's 2 advantages. When you parry, you get an armor up buff, so you can gain a buff, and you also do a little bit of damage to the opponent, that is inflict the damage effect that also completes. So Colossus is very tanky as well, and I'm using Horseman ability, so all of that works out for me. So once you have those challenges, you understand those challenges, you have to do them and try to push him to as much as special ones as possible, because he will throw special ones and that will give you 3 more competence. Once you have 5 of those challenges done, Grandmaster will be in wounded phase, and in that wounded phase you can go and hit into him, and your damage will be increased by 150% for every competence you had. Now remember, if you do not get the puzzle right for an SP1, that is plus 3 blunders, and once you have 5 blunders, that gives Grandmaster SP3, and that will instantly KO you. Now the biggest problem people face here is how to evade his SP1. What I'd like to do is, when he has an SP1, I wait for him to dash in and I dash back, and I keep a hand on his eyes. Before he throws an SP1, he just charges his SP1 in his hands and then he throws it out. So keep an eye on his hands and it will be much easier. Another thing is to always keep him to his corner of the map. That also triggers him throwing SP1. As soon as you go to your corner of the map, you're cornered, he's not going to throw and he's going to become very stubborn. You can also just try hitting him in his block, so you can also push him to his side of the map, so that's very important. And some good attackers for all of the Grandmaster fight are the ones that have a lot of criticals. So I've mentioned a few of them, you can use others as well. So for example, Aegon and Hitmonkey are really good at criticals, so is with Corvus Glaive. Now Morningstar is very tanky and she has heal as well, so she works good. And also Captain America Infinity War is a tanky champion along with Colossus. So you can go with 2 options. You can do a slightly longer fight and use tanky champions and have more room for error, or you can use champions that have less room for error, and if you have good skills at the game, you can use the critical champions, that is going to be Monkey King and also Aegon, all of those champions with a lot of critical attacks. I've also mentioned 2 more, that is going to be Professor X and going to be Mr. Sinister. They are your inverse control immune champions, so make sure that you bring one of them, because I am not looking to do this fight solo, because I genuinely think I cannot because of phase 3. So I have to bring a counter for phase 3. In my case, it's going to be a Professor X. I also have Sinister at rank 1 6-star, so I can bring either one of them, but for this video I am bringing Professor X, so more on him once we get to phase 3. So yes guys, keep all of that in mind. I know it's a lot to remember, but that will help you. and keep an eye on the puzzles on an SP1. And all I'm trying to say is just be careful with this SP1. Keep an eye on his hands and it will be much easier for you to evade his SP1. So I'll see you on the next phase, that is going to be Zugswang's, and we'll discuss in detail afterwards. Now once you bring the Grandmaster down to 30%, that will be your phase 3, that is Zugswang's. Now right now there's a red icon underneath him that is infuriated, so I like to just keep the Grandmaster in the corner and spam my heavy. That is actually a preparation phase, he can get very aggressive on it, so either stay away or just throw your heavies in the corner and you can easily deal with it. Now once you go into phase 3, there are a couple of things that happen. One, that he constantly gains power like Doctor Strange, so you have to keep baiting his SP1s out. Secondly, all of those 5 challenges has changed. Now the challenges are going to be strike into the block, so you have to throw in 4 strikes. Then there's also dash back, so you have to dash back 4 times. And then there's stand still, there's a timer that tells you to just stand back, so you do that. And knockdown GM, and the one that is most annoying here is going to be well-timed blocks, because first he is stun immune, and secondly the timing window is very small. Sometimes he will ask you to do 2, sometimes 3, sometimes even 4, depending how many charges he has him on him. So you need to really be up on your parry game, otherwise you'll get a blunder, and with 5 blunders, remember, that is going to be an instant KO. Now the really annoying part of this phase is going to be your reverse controls. So every 25 seconds the controls are reversed on the attacker for 8 seconds. Now remember, this is very close to his wounded state, so this can get really annoying. So for me to counter that, I brought in a Professor X. I don't need to worry about the reverse controls. Now as far as I know, these are the 4 champions that are immune to reverse controls. One is going to be a Mysterio, but you need to bring in Emma Frost synergy, and the second is going to be Emma Frost, but you will need the synergy with Mysterio. If not, some other champions are Professor X and also Mr. Sinister. They can easily bypass the reverse control, so you have one less thing to worry about. Now because I've bypassed the reverse controls, I can just concentrate on the fight and concentrate on getting those challenges done. Now right now it says perform well-timed block, and I am using my practice on the reparry technique to get them down. Once I have it, now it says stand still, so I'm just trying to stand still and get that done. Now once you have those 5 challenges done, he will be wounded again for 7 seconds, and you can go and hit him for every token of competence. You will have your damage increased by 150%, and when you crit, that will do a lot of damage to him, and that way you can bring him down. One thing about this phase is that keep an SP3 on you. That will be helpful, because as soon as the wounded phase is going to end, you can throw an SP3 and you can do a lot of damage, because during SP3 all these timer windows are just paused, so you can use that to your advantage. So right here I just got into a wounded phase. I have an SP3. As soon as wounded is about to expire, I throw my SP3 for more damage onto him. Now I didn't even notice that the reverse control phase came and went away, because I am using a Professor X. In the upcoming video I will use a champion that does not have reverse controls, and I will tell you how to deal with that. What I try to do if I'm not using a reverse control immune champion is, when reverse control are about to get activated, I will start dashing back and stay away from him, and I will be mentally ready to dash forward to the Dex back. So it's only 8 seconds. You can play around with it. If you have space, try to keep him to his corner of the map, so you have enough space to dex back and pass that timer on that reverse controls. This phase 3 is the one that is going to cost you the most revives or resources, so if you have any of these reverse control champions, I would highly suggest you to bring them. And the final phase is going to be Checkmate, that is going to be at 1% HP. Now you will notice that there are 2 icons. One is permanent unstoppable and one is infuriated. Now this is a long duration infuriated, now for 18 seconds. So what you need to stay away from him, because he's unblockable, unstoppable, and he will hurt you a lot. Now another way you can deal with that is you can intercept him. Once you intercept him, the unstoppable is disabled for 1.2 seconds. So you will notice that I will do that with the Apocalypse. I will try to get 1 intercept because it's aggressive, and then I can use that to my advantage. So 1 2 3 swipe back, 1 2 3 swipe back, 1 2 3. Then you can easily run out this timer, and once you have that, you have an SP3. You can throw that, and congratulations, you've killed the Grandmaster. And I would say congrats and well played. You still got 5 more paths to go, or 4 more paths depending where you are. So thank you for watching the video, guys. If you need a more in-depth guide, this was a quick one. You can just search MCOC Noob Grandmaster or 6.46 on YouTube, and you can get a more detailed guide. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give us a thumbs up and like, and subscribe to the channel. And apart from that, I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.